So Maury wanted to talk about unemployment. And I think one of the things with unemployment is we all hear the unemployment rate is 3.8, 4.2, 5.7, whatever the number is. But then we go to our friends who are looking for jobs or people in our world who are looking for jobs, and they say, I can't find a job. So is this a made up number? Like, what does the unemployment rate mean?
So it's not a made up number. I mean, right now, just for context, it is 4.1%, which is historically a pretty low level. I mean, for context, right before the pandemic, it was hovering in the mid 3% range, but where it's at now is certainly not high by any means. But there's a flaw in the measurement, right? It is an accurate number to a point. But first of all, unemployment doesn't measure what I'll call underemployment. Unemployment measures the number of people who want jobs and can't get jobs, but it doesn't measure the number of people who are qualified for, let's say, a $90,000 a year job and are stuck in a job paying $11 an hour. That's a really big flaw. Unemployment also doesn't speak to the quality of the jobs that are out there, because again, on paper, we've got a low unemployment rate. Anecdotally, I have a number of friends who are college educated. They're probably about mid-career with maybe 20 years of experience under their belt, but they're also not nearly on the cusp of retirement. So it's not like employers are looking at them saying, oh, you're 61 years old, so you're going to leave us any minute now. We don't want to invest in you. There's really no reason in the world why these people should not be employable. And yet I know, guys, I can't even tell you so many people who 6 months in can't find a job. And there's another thing too, okay? It's a thing that companies are doing now. I call it like the stealth contract tactic, where they want you there 40 hours a week. They want you working a certain schedule, but they're not going to make you an employee. You're going to be on a 6-month contract. So yes, people in that category are employed. You're employed, right? But is your income meeting your needs? Are you getting benefits? Are you getting health care? There's a very big gap.
So I think we're seeing a lot of trade down, especially in the tech space. So some of the people who worked in the tech space at our former employer, I sort of watched their job journeys, and these are very skilled programmers, technical people. And while they found jobs sort of within their like severance timetables, it took them kind of to the end. And then you're also seeing places like Microsoft lay off 9,000 people. Well, there's still a need for coders, for programmers, for all these people, but you're seeing a bit of a job trade down. So maybe you make 300 grand. Microsoft has these amazing benefits. There's cafeterias, there's coffee, there's daycare, there's basketball courts. Well, maybe now you work at T-Mobile and the job only pays 200 and it's way not as cool. And that obviously is way different than the person who's making 100 and trades down to 40. But you're seeing a lot of that. And where the growth is has largely been in service and retail and places that are good careers if you want to invest your time in them, but not necessarily good places to start. Maury, your last word on unemployment.
You know, I think the big question is, as we get into the second half of the year, is it going to get better? Is it going to get worse? I always hate to be that downer, but I think just given that tariffs are going to introduce a whole world of uncertainty, I think employers are going to be very skittish about hiring. And I think a lot of them are going to be very conservative with their balance sheets. And I think we're going to see more big companies shed headcount. That was a hard thing to say.
It is.
Headcount in the coming months.
Yeah, you know what? You're right though, Maury, because and Dan, you mentioned this too, with the technology situation. It was, a couple years ago, those were the jobs that were in high demand, right? Everybody was working from home. They were building, Facebook was hiring like crazy, Amazon, Google, they were all hiring like crazy, paying huge money to attract talent. And they overhired, arguably. And now they are letting go people. I mean, if you look at the Challenger Gray and Christmas data, 866,000 plus people have been laid off in 2025 through May.
Wow.
And that's up at 80% year over year. And if you look at the reason, there's two big reasons that they cite: technology workers and DOGE federal cuts.
And Dan, I want to challenge something you said a second ago, just real quick, because I know this is going to be supposed to be a short thing, but you mentioned retail before as sort of good stepping stone and potentially a stable career, but I'm not so convinced because we have to see how this whole tariff situation plays out, because if prices go up and if retailers have to conserve costs and if consumer spending declines, I'm not super confident that retail is going to be the best space to be in either in the next year.
So every year, back to school and Christmas, they say sales are going to go down, and every year sales go up. I think we're going to see wonky sales. We're going to see like the pandemic patterns of, oh wow, Peloton's a great business. Everyone I know bought a Peloton, and then you realize for the next 4 years, anyone who might buy a Peloton already bought it. I think we're going to see some of that softness, but the reality is, as a country, we spend and we might shift our spending. They always say, oh, well, we're moving more towards experiences. And I don't really believe that. People still leave stuff